What's up, guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharpe, and welcome to a special edition of TSR Live with Donovan Sharpe. This is actually TSR Sports Talk. I know I'm kind of lip-syncing. My software is going in and out, so bear with me. I'm going to discuss the resignation, the retirement of now former Ohio State football coach, head football coach Urban Meyer. I just watched the press conference right there on ESPN. And, you know, it was interesting. And again, if you have a take, if you want to comment on what I comment on, if you have thoughts about the Urban Meyer retirement, the Urban Meyer resignation, give me a call, 914-205-5356. The phone lines are open. So, earlier today, I don't remember who broke the news, but I woke up this morning and of course I see all over my TV screen Urban Meyer to step down at Ohio State University. And you know, it's interesting, it wasn't really a shock to a lot of people. And I'll get into why that is a little bit later on, but not a lot of people were shocked, to say the least. A lot of people were surprised. Didn't really shock people like when Bob Stoops decided to up and retire, when Bob Stoops decided to step down. But Urban Meyer, fresh off of his demolition of Jim Harbaugh once again at Michigan, fresh off there, I don't know how many Big Ten titles, Urban Meyer has decided to step down. Now, just to give you sort of a recap of Urban Meyer's career, Urban Meyer, listen, man, he did it the right way in terms of coaching. He started out small. You know, he had success at Bowling Green. Then, of course, he went over to the University of Utah, where he had great success at Utah, made Alex Smith the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Almost went to Notre Dame. I remember when this happened. I remember when Urban Meyer was being heavily recruited by Notre Dame. Notre Dame wanted Urban Meyer to be their head coach. Instead, he goes to Florida and wins 2 national championships. Now, interestingly enough, what a lot of guys don't remember about Urban Meyer's, I think it was his first championship, his first title. Tim Tebow wasn't his quarterback for the first title. It was actually Chris Leak. And they beat the heavily favored Ohio State Buckeyes, incidentally enough, in the national championship game, and gave Urban Meyer his first national title. Then, of course, I don't know if it was the next year or I don't know if it was back-to-back. But then, of course, Tim Tebow won him the national title after the 2007 season. Of course, Urban Meyer, a lot of talent came through the University of Florida. Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez, the Pouncey twins, all of which played in the NFL. Then he retired from the University of Florida, citing health reasons. And I think a year and a half, 2 years later, he pops out at Ohio State. Now, Urban Meyer is from Ohio. Ohio State was the dream job. He gets the dream job. And, of course, he delivers. National championship. He's in the playoff hunt every year. Zeke Elliott and all the rest of that. So now the question becomes, a lot of people today, and I just watched the press conference, and a lot of people are asking, why did he retire from Ohio State? Like, what's the real reason? Now, I just learned probably, I don't know, maybe about 15, 20 minutes ago that Urban Meyer has a cyst on his brain. Apparently, it's stress-related, and that was his reason for retiring. But what you guys have to understand is someone had to ask the question, right? They asked the question, they said, Urban, this summer, the way you were treated during the whole Zach Smith situation with Courtney Smith, Zach Smith, his wife, etc., did that have to do with the reason why you stepped down. And he was honest. He said, yeah, it was part of it. But of course, he said it's an accumulation of things. Just the stress of being the head coach of a top flight program like Ohio State University. Listen, man, Urban Meyer, I don't know what is he, the second best college head coach of this generation? He's a legend. 3 national championships. I think he's the only active coach now. I think he's now the only one of 2 active coaches with multiple national championships. The other one, of course, being Nick Saban, who's working on number 7 this year. But Urban Meyer's a legend. He will be revered as one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. Nick Saban is on his way to being the greatest if he isn't there already. So, of course, when he cited his health, his family, I want to spend more time with my family. And listen, he's only 54 years old. But according to him, he says he's done. This is it. He's not going to pull a Florida to Ohio State University trick like he did last time. And listen, I believe that he was sick at Florida. I believe that his health was fading at Florida. He was a 2-time national champion. Right? He had nothing left to prove. But he retired at a young age. He retired in his late 40s. So I think the sense was that eventually he would come back to coach college football. Then a couple of years later, lo and behold, he ends up in Columbus. And the rest is history. So, of course, I turn on ESPN, and Paul Feinbaum and I think Stephen A. Smith both share the sentiment that this was probably in the works at the end of the whole Zach Smith, Courtney Smith thing. And again, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with this, I mean, listen, if you follow sports, you understand what happened. Basically what happened is that Zach Smith was accused of domestic violence against his wife, Courtney Smith. Zach Smith was an assistant coach for Urban Meyer. They questioned Urban Meyer about it at Big Ten Media Day. They asked him if he knew anything about it. He said no, didn't know anything about it. And I don't know whether he knew anything about it or not. To me, that's immaterial, right? And again, Courtney Smith went on the record saying, I believe he did know, right? And instead he chose to help the abuser and enable the abuser and believe whatever Zach, her husband, was telling everybody. I think that this was, me personally, Donovan Sharpe, I think that this was probably, I don't want to say it was a straw that broke the camel's back. I do believe that there are health issues, man. That's why he left Florida, was because of health issues. But I think that this was the straw that broke the camel's back, guys. But going back to the Courtney Smith, Zach Smith situation, let's say he did know. And keep in mind, these were just allegations at this point. And to my knowledge, and guys in the chat, again, I'm multicasting on Facebook, Twitter, and all 3 of my YouTube channels. Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. I don't think Zach Smith has been arrested yet, right? So Urban Meyer was suspended because of domestic violence allegations of his assistant coach, right? Now, people across ESPN that day, they asked, well, why would he risk his reputation by denying that he knew? And I'll tell you why. I'd say exactly why he denied it. Yes, Urban Meyer lied, and I probably would have too. Wouldn't have made any difference. Because he knew he'd be in this predicament anyway. If they had asked him, Urban, did you know? And he said yes, then the barrage of questions come. But here's the thing, guys. Why is it the head coach's responsibility to fire an assistant coach based on allegations? Right? The Kansas City Chiefs just released Kareem Hunt. They released it because of a video. He hasn't been prosecuted yet. And do not get it twisted. The Kansas City Chiefs don't give a shit about domestic violence. The NFL doesn't give a shit about domestic violence. They don't. Nor should they. They shouldn't give a shit about domestic violence. They act like they do, they don't. What they care about are the protests. What they care about are the optics. The Chiefs probably knew that something happened with... Now, according to Kareem Hunt and the Chiefs, not to get off on a tangent here, he lied to them and told them that he never touched her. The videotape came out. They released him. Kareem Hunt hasn't been arrested and probably won't be. They're trying to reach out to the girl that he allegedly curb stomped. He kicked this girl one time. Right? Listen, no one here is condoning domestic violence, but guys, like, there are different levels to this stuff. What Chris Brown did to Rihanna, that's domestic violence, right? Dude, swinging your leg and coming in contact with a woman who, by the way, allegedly called him the N-word over and over again, was getting all in his face over and over again. They ended up releasing him. So, again, why is it a head coach's responsibility to fire an assistant coach based on allegations? Courtney Smith went to the police and reported Zach Smith. So what's Meyer supposed to do? Fire the guy on an allegation? Oh, wait. Here's why. Listen to this, man. Meyer's contract extension signed in April. He actually signed a contract extension in April. And that's why I think that this Courtney Smith, Zach Smith thing probably fast-forwarded his retirement. Meyer's contract includes language requiring him to report any violations by staff members of Ohio State's sexual misconduct policy to the University Athletics Title IX coordinator. Also, as an Ohio State employee who supervises others, Meyer is required by the university's sexual misconduct policy to report knowledge of domestic abuse by a university employee. According to the policy, quote, an individual need not be charged or convicted of a criminal offense to be found responsible for domestic violence pursuant to this policy. All a female has to do is make an accusation, and the head coach has to take action based on an accusation. No proof required. Not listening to both sides of the story. Coach has got to take action or he's gone, according to Title IX and his contract extension. The thing is this, guys. Coaches and players know that if they are connected to a domestic violence accusation, by 40 fucking degrees, right? Everybody's going down. If a former intern to an assistant trainer to the assistant coach's granddaughter's aunt's daughter's daughter says a former player from 10 years ago may or may not have made her feel uncomfortable with a joke that he told, they go right after the head coach. Right? We saw that with the whole Brett Kavanaugh situation. Christine Ford or Blase, whatever the fuck the slut's name was. Yeah, Brett Kavanaugh shook his dick in my face 30 years ago. Is there any proof of that? Are there any other witnesses corroborating that? And if it was so bad, why didn't you report it to the police? The number one indicator that a public domestic abuse or domestic violence or rape allegation is false, she tells more than one person, but she doesn't tell the cops, right? Women will tell anyone who will listen that player XYZ, celebrity XYZ, shook his dick in my face, he hit me, he sexually assaulted me, which is a very nebulous term in and of itself, right? All they have to do is say that, and the player and they go down. It's ridiculous. It's and this in essence is what happened to Urban Meyer. It's just by 40 degrees. Now, the wife said she would tell Urban Meyer, and I'm not trying to go back into all of this, right? But the fact of the matter is that Shelly Smith said that she would tell Urban Meyer. That's plausible deniability, right? Now, some people might say, well, the text messages may indicate that he knew. Well, guess what? Until we see those messages, let's reserve judgment. The messages came out. Okay, he knew. Big fucking deal, right? Even if he knew, what's he supposed to do? Fire the guy over allegations? Like, again, there's no conviction. I don't know. I don't know if he's been arrested or not. I don't even give a shit about Zach Smith. That's over with. He'll never work in college football again. But the reason why I believe that Urban Meyer has stepped down today is because of what happened last summer with the suspension. Don't get me wrong, his health was probably a reason, but there was probably some sort of, and Paul Feinbaum said it on ESPN today, there was probably a quid pro quo situation going on, The stars just happened to align. And again, I heard that there was a cyst on his brain a little while ago. If that's the case, you got to retire. But that was, look, listen, that's in the right place at the right time. Domestic violence, guys, it's changing legacies. Guys are talking about, oh, Urban Meyer, is his legacy going to be stained? I don't think so. I don't think his legacy is going to be stained. I don't think it's going to be one of those deals where, his legacy is stained. It's not going to be a Joe Paterno situation where they're tearing down his statue. Tearing down a statue, wiping the record books of him, etc., etc. I don't think it's going to rise. I don't think it's going to rise to that level. Not even close. I don't think. Yeah, whatever. Because he's not the one that committed domestic violence. And what happened at Penn State, that was bad. That was really bad. That was really bad. But at the end of the day, guys, domestic violence accusations, again, if you are connected to any of this stuff by 30 fucking degrees, if somebody said something, you're automatically held liable. Not because they really think you're responsible, because you're the big fish. Zach Smith, dude, nobody knew who the fuck Zach Smith was when all of this came out. Nobody knew who the hell it was, right? And that's exactly why they decided to go after Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer should be fired. Why? So you expect, and by the way, Zach Smith is the grandson of Urban Meyer's mentor. So you expect a man to just abandon all familial ties, familial legacy type ties because of an accusation? No, he's not going to do that. And neither would these people who are calling for his job. That's just all there is to it. All right, I had to make sure the software was going well. So yeah, will he be back? Yeah, probably not. Ryan Day is going to take over. Apparently, Ryan Day is, that's the guy on the screen now. He's an up and coming. He's definitely an up and coming head coach. He coached the first 3 games during Meyer's suspension. And again, Urban Meyer, I think it's probably, listen, I think that this was a quid pro quo situation. I think Gene Smith and the board, because there were people on the board of trustees who wanted him gone. I think Gene Smith was in his corner. And listen, nobody has any proof of this, but I think what ended up happening was, okay, Urban, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to suspend you for 3 games without pay. There's going to be some blowback, but there's not going to be as much blowback, right? At the end of the season, you're going to step down because of health reasons. You want to spend time with your family, etc., etc. Tom Rinaldi, who has known the Meyer family, he's known Urban Meyer and Shelley Meyer, the whole Meyer family, for the better part of the last couple of decades. And by the way, Tom Rinaldi is the one who conducted the interview with Urban Meyer about the whole Zach Smith situation. And to Tom Rinaldi's credit, he didn't let his personal feelings get in the way of fair and balanced reporting. But he's the one that sat down and had that conversation with Urban Meyer, did a little bit of damage control, etc., etc. At one point, Tom Rinaldi said that Urban Meyer asked him, "Do I look healthy to you?" It's like the stars aligned for this to happen. But again, listen, I'm going to stand by it, man. If the whole Courtney Smith, Zach Smith situation doesn't happen, we're not having this conversation again. He just waxed Jim Harbaugh for the 4th straight year, right? He missed the playoffs by 2 spots. They finished number 6, 2-1, another Big Ten title. Listen, coaches rarely walk away when they're on top. Players rarely walk away when they're on top. Guys like John Elway, Ray Lewis, those are outliers. The punch-drunk fighter. Dude, they fight until they can't speak anymore. And this is now the 2nd time Urban Meyer has stepped down. Let's do a check of the chat here. Shout out to Winston Wolf. Aslam Mehdi is in the house. Marcus Allen. James Martinez. Listen, he said, quote, James Martinez says, quote, "Tried to tell you earlier this year that this would be his last year." Listen, J-Mart called it. James Martinez fucking called it. And I remember when I did that first stream on the whole Courtney Smith, Zach Smith situation, James Martinez said it was his last year. I disagreed. I said, you know what? I think he survives this. I was wrong. I thought that Urban Meyer would survive the scandal. I think he would go on to win another national championship or two. And James Martinez told me several times in that chat, this was his last year. James Martinez says citing health gives him a couple of years and then he'll be back, probably at USC. Yeah, listen, Clay Helton is not long for this world at USC. It looks like Cliff Kingsbury was just hired as the offensive coordinator over at USC, and he appears to be the head coach in waiting. But if Urban Meyer decides to throw his hat into the ring, they'll say, see you later, Cliff. We want Meyer. But again, he says that this is he said he's not coaching anymore. Who knows? Who knows? George Tinker's in the house. Good to see you in here. Freelance Run, it says Title IX needs to be repealed. Yeah, listen, man. Title IX is a bunch of bullshit. Like, if you actually read the bylaws and everything, I think all Title IX was originally created to do was to give equal rights to female players, to female college athletes. I don't know. But now, Title IX is just used to take down powerful men and athletes based on the words of sluts. That's really all it is. Again, by the way, TSR Live, Monday through Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. I'm not going to have my show today at 5. My show is going to be tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have Rolo Tomasi on to talk about red pill groupies. Tomorrow I'm going to be back on the air at my regular time. I'm going to have Steve the Dean Williams. We're going to discuss if sex dolls will eventually replace women, so that'll be an interesting conversation. Brian Washington is shocked, says, but he's walking away loaded. Yeah, listen, he was loaded when he left Florida. Brian Washington says that scandal wore him down big time. If you want to see what a rejected thought can do, look at Kareem Hunt. Yeah, listen, this is what happens. This is what happens. Because of hashtag listen and believe, hashtag me too, it is literally to the point where all a woman has to do is accuse a man of anything, and she is automatically believed. Like, they don't try these cases in a court of law. I can't remember the last time a professional, other than Darren Sharpe, but his situation was bad. I can't remember the last time in a court of law that any of this stuff went to court. You see, in a court of law, when you're accused of a crime, the standard of proof is guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. Right? Guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. But that's not the standard of proof in the court of public opinion. The court of public opinion uses the civil court standard of proof, which is called the preponderance of the evidence. A simple definition of the preponderance of the evidence is that if the defendant is found to have more likely than not been responsible for the crime, then said defendant is guilty. This is why OJ was acquitted in criminal court, but convicted in civil court. Because the standard of proof was based on the preponderance of the evidence. And Kareem Hunt's going to land on his feet somewhere. He's too young and too talented. He'll be fine. He'll be all right. Come on. Having trouble with my... Come on. I'm trying to look at the rest of these chats here. Mr. Old School Writer says, shake my head. For whatever reason, I cannot see these new messages here. Give me a couple of seconds. Freelance Runner says, a lot of great programs have been pulled from schools behind Title IX. He also says that snitch-ass Coach Herman started this extra stuff trying to save his own ass instead of on the coach's code. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. I'm going to have to bring... God damn it. I hate it when the software that I pay for doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to refresh this. Of course, now it restarts. Okay. All right. You know, it's interesting. I never get calls unless I'm on the air. I never get phone calls unless I'm on the air. 914-205-5356 is the number to call if you want to weigh in on the show. I'm going to bring up the stream here so I can look at the rest of the chats. It doesn't appear that too many people have too much to say on Twitter or Facebook. Guess I've got to do this a little bit more consistently. All right, let me bring up the chat here, guys. There we go. All right, let's pull this bad boy up. Yeah, I know this is battery, guys. Just bear with me here. Come on. All right, we got the pop-out chat. Excellent. All right, perfect. All right. Yeah, this is the again, guys, this is one of those situations where it was kind of the perfect storm. I firmly, like I said, I think that. Do I believe Meyer is lying when he tells us, hey, it's for health reasons? No, of course not. You can't lie about a cyst on the brain. You know, people talk about him looking stressed, etc., etc. But you can't deny the fact that that the whole situation this summer definitely sped up his retirement. Will he be back? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But one can only guess, to be honest with you. Like I said before, it would not surprise me if he ended up back coaching college football. That's going to do it for this edition of TSR Sports Talk. Thank you guys for watching. Again, you guys can watch TSR live normally Monday through Thursday at 5 Eastern. Monday through Thursday afternoons at 5 Eastern. But I'm going to have Rolo Tomasi on tonight at 8 o'clock. At 8 Eastern. That's going to be 5 Pacific. It's actually 5 Pacific Rolo's time. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later tonight.